All right, Duke fans, it is time for DBR Bites, episode number 131. Jason Evans, Donald Wine here with you. We are previewing the contest against the Louisville Cardinals, I should say. Donald, I'm
We
go
have
ahead.
Cardinal and Cardinals in this conference.
Yes, exactly. And in fact, over the weekend, the Cardinals lost to the Cardinal. The
Yes.
singular was better than the plural in a very big, very interesting game. In fact, it is your job, sir, always to tell us a little bit about what teams have done in their schedule so far. One of the most significant things on Louisville's schedule is they lost an ACC game. So get me started previewing Louisville by talking about how they did this weekend against Stanford.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is we're now reached the part of the season, Jason, where we don't have to talk about a lot of the early season wins that a team has, but we will focus on basically their record, what they've done in the conference, and of course top 100 wins, because I think that's also important when you're looking at NCAA tournament selection and things like and seeding and things like that. So the Louisville Cardinals, 11-3 on the year, 1-1 in the ACC. Their top 100 wins so far this season are good ones. Kentucky, Cincinnati, Indiana, Memphis, and their first game, they have been on the West Coast. They played at Cal, they beat Cal, and then they lost to Stanford in the row, which we'll talk about in a second. Their losses on the season, other than the Stanford game, which I mean, Stanford's also 12-1, 11-2, so they're still doing pretty good. Their losses so far are to Arkansas, Tennessee, and Stanford. So again, this team,
No shame, by the way.
no shame in any of those.
And both the Arkansas and the Tennessee game were away games. Those were on the road. No shame in losing those games at all.
Yep. And the fact is that Louisville has, they surprised everybody under Pat Kelsey last year by being 18-2 in the ACC and just barely, missing out and catching us for the number one seed in the ACC tournament. They surprised a lot of people last year, and now they have retooled. They have a little bit of a target on their backs because people are considering them another favorite to win this conference this year. And again, 1-1 in the ACC. They took a little blip on that road trip out to California, but this is still a team that's 12th in KenPom. They're 14th in the net. We're at the Yum Center, the biggest arena in college basketball, against a team which I know Jason will talk about. It is very, very fast. They shoot a lot of threes. It's a very similar game to what we saw against Florida State, except this team, talent-wise, is probably a lot better. But this is a quad one game. This is a quad one opportunity. Last year when we went to Louisville, it was that early December game that we used to have under the 20-game schedule. We struggled against them, but we came out with like an 11-point win. This is going to be no easy game, and this is going to be a barometer-setting game for the rest of the ACC. Which team looks like they are the class of the ACC at this point? It's either us or Louisville. We get a crack at trying to show that Duke, no matter or how bad we've played in certain areas over the last couple of weeks, we're still the best team in this conference.
Yeah, this game. You mentioned the game a year ago when we played them at Louisville a year ago, and it was a close game, a very competitive game that Duke kind of pulled away a little bit late in that contest. We didn't realize how significant that game would be by the end of the year, and that was the difference in winning and losing the conference. That Louisville was so good that win was far more impressive than we thought it was at the time. We now look at Louisville and we understand that this is one of the top 10, 15 programs in the country. That Pat Kelsey has put together a hell of a roster, and that if we get a win down there at Louisville, it's that's one of the signature wins of the season. I don't care how many other good teams you play, how many impressive games you have. If you manage to pull off a win at Louisville, that is a very, very big deal and not an easy thing to do. Before I get into the metrics on them, I want to mention something that is really important, which is that they have been terribly banged up lately. Their best player, Mikel Brown Jr. is their best player, and he's missed 4 games in a row with a sore back. They had really hoped that they would get him back for the Stanford game. They were practicing, and he was trying to get back into practice, and his back just wasn't, back injuries. They're things that they just take time, and it's just they're unpredictable.
I know this firsthand.
Yeah. He was out there practicing, and it started bothering him again, and they shut him down. They say he's day to day. You know he wants to play against Duke in a home game. I mean, like that kid. He's a freshman. He's only gonna be there 1 year. He's a future lottery pick. I'm gonna talk more about him in a little bit, but you know he wants to be out there for that game. I think there's a pretty good chance he misses the game. If he was unable to go just a couple days ago against Stanford, I just find it hard to believe that. Yeah, and by unable to go, I mean he's not even practice. You know, they tried to get him to practice, he couldn't even practice. I think it's just gonna be really tough. They, by the way, have a couple other guys battling nagging injuries. You know, some of them are playing through them, some of them are not able to. One of the guys who's been bothered by injuries is Cassine Pryor. I just wanted to mention really quick, Donald. I'm not sure if you remember that guy a year ago. I thought he looked like a future NBA player a year ago. And he tore his ACL, and he's still dealing with knee trouble a year later. He just cannot get going. I feel for him because he plays so hard. He's so good when he's healthy, and he just can't get healthy. So anyway, this Louisville club is still really deep. Even without Brown, even without Cassine Pryor, they're still a very, very deep ball club that have a lot of different ways to get at you. And I'm going to get it. Let me get into the analytics now, and then we'll take a quick break, and I'll talk about all those different players. But from an analytics standpoint, they're 12th in KenPom. They play super fast on offense, 16th fastest offense in the country, and that offense is their calling card. Everything they do, not everything, but a lot of what they do takes place outside the three-point line. We've mentioned it. You know, we mentioned it. We were talking about Florida State. The only team that shoots more threes than Florida State is Louisville. They shoot the most three-pointers of any team in the country. Close to 55% of their shots come from three-point range. And unlike Florida State, Louisville's actually fairly good at hitting them. They hit 35% of their threes. And when you think about how many threes they take, 35% is a big number to be hitting those. With so much attention paid to their three-point game, people don't really notice that it opens up the inside for Florida State. I'm sorry, for Louisville. Louisville hits 61% of their two-point shots. That's the 10th best two-point field goal percentage in the country. And they don't take bad twos. Like this Louisville team takes three-pointers or they take twos like right at the rim. They have the 10th closest to the rim two-point field goal shot in the country. Like they basically are either shooting right there or they're shooting three-pointers. It's just Pat Kelsey. They play it super, super smart on offense. This is how you have the third best offense in terms of efficiency in all of the country. The third best offense is an offense that takes layups, dunks, and three-pointers. And that is what Louisville does. And and by the way, as an added bonus for them, all the threes they take often turn into long rebounds. So they grab 37% of their missed shots. They're a good offensive rebounding team. They're also an excellent free throw shooting team. They hit close to 78% of their free throws. They don't turn the ball over a lot. Donald, are you having nightmares? Yeah, this is nightmare fuel. They take a lot of threes and they hit them. They take twos, really good twos. They don't miss their free throws. They get offensive rebounds. How are they only the third best offense? I mean,
and the interesting thing about it, Jason, is on the eye test, I mentioned against FSU that their pace while fast can be a little bit frantic, right? Louisville is a little bit more controlled with their pace. They know when they recognize when to bring it back out and run a half court offense. And yeah, I think the one key here is besides the 3-point shooting is the fact that anytime they take a two, it's right at the rim, where they're either bouncing off the glass or they're getting, basically dunks. The idea is to try and, Stanford, what they were doing well is kind of pushing them out a little bit more, right? And it didn't have to be that much. When you're used to shooting a 4-foot shot, shooting a 6-foot shot, it's a world of difference, right? And you have that muscle memory. And so these guys have muscle memory of getting inside 3-4 feet and taking a shot. If you're able to push them out to 8-10 feet, those shots fall a little bit short. You're able to get more rebounds. And again, that's how Stanford was able to kind of frustrate Louisville. It wasn't necessarily by eliminating their threes. It was limiting where they took their twos and frustrating them inside.
It's interesting that you bring that up because one of the things Louisville does really well on defense is they force you away from the basket. They don't give you shots at the rim. This is the team. They again, this crazy stat of average 2-point field goal defense, average 2-point field goal distance, I should say. They have the 14th best two-point field goal distance on defense, meaning they push you away from the rim. They don't let you get shots at the rim. And as a result, they only allow teams to hit 43% of their two-point field goals. Duke usually hits well over 60% of our twos, and Louisville only allows teams to hit 43%, seventh best in the country at two-point field goal defense. This is the thing that Louisville does better than anything else, is prevent you from hitting two-point field goals, making your two-point field goals more difficult. And the interesting thing is they're not doing it by blocking, not that they're a terrible shot blocking team, but they're not a great shot blocking team. It is that they contest, they force you away from the basket, they wall up, and they don't allow you to get to the rim, and they force you to take those mid-range kind of shots. Duke hates those shots. Those shots are where efficiency goes to die. And that is what Louisville does best on defense. Now, Louisville's not a great defensive rebounding team. They're good, but they're not like unbelievable at defensive rebounding. They don't turn you over a tremendous amount. But what they do is they're just really good at forcing you into bad shots. I mentioned you only hit 43% of your twos. They only allow teams to hit 31.5% of their threes. And the other thing is, Louisville makes you work the clock. They play really fast on offense. They play really slow on defense. One of the bottom 70 or so paces on defense. Duke is a similar team. We want to go faster on offense than we do on defense, sort of like Louisville. There's just a lot about this Louisville team that you look at it and you go, that's the way you want to play basketball. And Louisville is really, really successful at those kind of things. All right, we talked a bit about the analytics. We're going to get to the players in a second, Donald. This is a true DBR Bites. It's not going to be as long an episode. We're going to take a break. On the other side, I'm going to talk about the players on Louisville, the guys you need to watch out for, the names you need to know as the Blue Devils try to stay undefeated on the road at Louisville. We'll have that in just one moment. All right, folks, new year, bigger goals, no time to cook? Factor makes it easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the shopping or the cooking.
Factor meals are always fresh and never frozen meals that are ready in about 2 minutes. No prep, no stress. With over 100 rotating weekly meals, including options like high protein, calorie smart, or even a Mediterranean diet, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Plus, the new Muscle Pro collection supports strength and recovery, and they're delicious, which is the most important part.
Yes, it is, Donald. Hey, folks, head to factormeals.com/DukeBB50off. Again, use that code DukeBB50off to get 50% off your first Factor box, plus free breakfast for a year. That offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthy eating easier with Factor. Donald, we're back from the break, and we're still talking about the Louisville Cardinals, and we want to talk about the players that really matter in this game. I'm going to begin with the guy who I talked about at the top, who I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, because if he plays, it's a big, big deal, and that's Mikel Brown Jr. Freshman point guard. He's the engine that drives their machine. As I mentioned, he's been out of their past 4 games. They were number 9 in Bart Torvik's rankings prior to him getting hurt, and they're 27th over the past 4 games since he got hurt. So he makes a difference. Dazzling, just a dazzling dribbler, elite at getting into the lane, forcing your defense into making difficult decisions, which usually end with either him getting a bucket or him finding a teammate for an easy score. He averages 5 assists per game. He averages better than 16 points per game. Donald, the thing about Mikel Brown Jr. that really scares me when he does come back is this. I saw this guy play some in high school. I've seen his high school stats, his AAU stats. I saw him play for the Team USA in the FIBA America's Cup. 19U. Yeah, it was the 19U he played on. He is an elite outside shooter. I mean, this is a guy who can absolutely fill it. I've seen him do it. He can fill it up from 3-point range. But so far, Mikel Brown Jr. is only hitting 26% of his threes in college basketball. I'm telling you, That's not going to last. But this guy's too good a shooter for him to be less than 30% on the season. So at some point, Mikel Brown Jr. is going to start hitting threes, and he takes a lot, by the way. He takes 7 3-pointers a game. I hope he doesn't play against Duke, and I hope he doesn't figure out his shot against Duke, because Louisville's going to take someone down in a brutal, brutal way. At some point this year, Mikel Brown's going to have a game where he's like 5 of 8 on 3-pointers, and someone's going to lose to Louisville by 30 points, and I just hope it isn't us.
So it's interesting. You mentioned the fact that he might not play, and I always assume against Duke that these guys are going to find some Willis Reed in them and come out and play until otherwise told. We mentioned this in the football side of things back in the summer, but one thing that has been introduced this year for the ACC is availability reports. I just want to let everybody know that we're recording this before the availability report comes out, so we're not sure what they're going to say. But the funny thing is Pat Kelsey's also not talking about it. Every time someone asks, he does not like these availability reports, and so anytime anyone asks about a guy that's injured, he just goes, "You'll see the availability report." When it comes out, and you'll know whether this guy is playing or not. So we will learn more about whether Mikel Brown is out or considered questionable or probable for this game once that report comes out. We just don't have that in front of us right now because it hasn't been released yet. But I expect him to play because I expect all these guys to play. And again, if he doesn't, then we can adjust from there.
All right, let's get on to the guys that we know are going to play, at least at least we think. And it starts with Ryan Conwell. 6'4" wing. He came over from Xavier, averaging close to 20 points per game. He is their leading scorer. Ryan Conwell never saw a shot he didn't like. He shoots the ball a lot. Since Mikel Brown Jr. went down, he's shooting it even more. Get this number. Over their past 4 games where Mikel Brown Jr. has been injured, Ryan Conwell has taken more than 53 pointers. 53 pointers in 4 games, Donald. Against Cal, he was 6 of 13. Against Stanford, he was 2 of 14. My man's firing it up there. Whether he's hot or not, he's going to continue to shoot. On the season, he's hitting 37% from long range. So he's a fairly high volume 3-point shooter who hits a pretty good percentage of them. Ryan Conwell, Duke, he is a challenge. He's going to be. I don't think you can stop him from taking threes. I think you just need to try to contain his threes so he doesn't get too many of them and they aren't wide open. He's not even their best outside shooter. Their best outside shooter is probably Isaac McNeely. You'll remember that name from UVA. He has more than 100 threes on the season already. He's only shot 22 pointers. So basically he's taken threes and that's about it. He hits around 40% from 3-point range. He's one of those guys that you just can't, sort of like Isaiah. Like if Isaiah really wants to, if Slim really wants to get off a 3, he's going to get it off because he can shoot them from crazy angles. Isaac McNeely is the same way. In fact, Isaac McNeely is even more apt to take, sort of a on the move, off the dribble kind of 3, even more so than Isaiah. Again, you just gotta kind of hope that he doesn't make too many of them. I want to mention their man in the middle. That's Sananda Fru is his name. He is a freshman from Germany. Actually, he's not really a freshman. He's played 4 years in the Bundesliga, and they classify him as a junior. He's 22 years old, so he's not a freshman, but he's in his first season of college basketball. He's 6'11", 250 pounds. Dude is a mountain. You'll just see him, and you'll be like, that guy's big. Fru he's a space eater on the inside. He's not going to shoot outside the lane, but he's actually not like just some lumbering Hulk inside. He's got nice moves in the post. He's very nimble on his feet. He's quick. Like if Pat doesn't get out and follow this guy on the break, Fru will beat you down the floor. He's averaging 11 points per game. He leads the team in rebounding and shot blocking. He has, like I said, really good footwork. He hustles. Fru's a really, really nice player for them on the inside. And I also want to mention, last guy I want to mention, and again, I said this Louisville team is really, really deep. They've got a lot of different guys who can do things for them, but I want to mention the guy who's going to be matched up against Cam Boozer, and I think that's probably going to be 6'7" forward Javon Hadley. Mostly a guy who scores in the lane and around the bucket, does a good job of putting the ball on the floor, and if you leave him alone, by the way, on the outside, he will bury you from 3-point. He doesn't take a ton of threes, but he's hitting 45% of his threes on the season is Javon Hadley. And with Mikel Brown out, he stepped up his scoring, but he's going to be the guy who has to match up, I think, with Cam. Louisville has a decent amount of size, but I'm not sure they have anybody who is a really good matchup with Cameron Boozer. Again, I think Hadley's probably the guy, but I just looked up and down their roster. I've watched some of their games. I haven't seen anyone that I go, oh, that's the guy who maybe it's Kahani Ruths who comes off the bench for them. I just look around. I'm just not sure I'm seeing who is a good matchup for Cameron Boozer. And it's possible that this is a game where Duke relies on Cam to score more rather than passing more, because I think Cam's going to be able to get where he needs to. Again, I said Louisville's not a team that blocks a lot other than Frew. They don't have a lot of shot blockers. I'm going to go ahead and predict that this is Cam back in the mid-20s or more in this contest, because I just don't see a good matchup for Louisville against him.
I want to go back to the three guys that at least Ken Pom deems are the highest usage rate players on Louisville. That's Mikel Brown, that's Ryan Conwell, and Sananda Frew. All of them are also the guys, because they're high usage guys, they're the guys who have the most turnovers on the team. Mikel Brown is going to have the ball in his hands a lot if he plays, but he averages 2.4 turnovers a game, and that's because he has the ball in his hands a lot. And so you have opportunities here. Ryan Conwell averages 1.9, and Sananda Frew averages 1.8 turnovers per game. So the thing about Frew is, Jason, you mentioned when he's on the break, he likes to get the ball and go, but kind of like what we saw against Florida State, he's a guy that tends to bring the ball down. He's not the guy who holds. You have centers that grab the ball high and hold the ball high, and it's hard for you to get the ball out of their hands. But when they bring it down below their waist, that's when a guard can swipe the ball away. That's when a forward can swipe the ball away and steal it from him. Frew does that sometimes, and that's where he can get careless, for lack of a better word, with the ball. If he gets the ball, and there's going to be opportunities for him when he brings the ball down for one of our guys to kind of low block him and slap the ball away when he's trying to go up for a shot. With Conwell and Brown, it's more about they have the ball in their hands a ton, and whether it's stealing the ball from them, whether it's them throwing the ball away, or whether it's just an errant pass that can be intercepted, you'll be able to get your opportunities to turn the ball over in Louisville. I know they don't do it often, but it's something that you can do with those three guys.
Really quick, one thing I wanted to mention about Conwell and Brown, and again, it's so difficult to preview this Louisville game not knowing if Mikel Brown's going to play, but both Conwell and Brown are guys who, they shoot a lot of threes, but they are guys who will attack the basket as well, and they will draw fouls. They are both of them are really, Mikel Brown especially, are really good at drawing fouls, getting to the free throw line, and getting your big men in foul trouble. And one of the big problems with Louisville is Mikel Brown hits almost 84% of his free throws. Ryan Conwell hits 83% of his free throws. Like, these guys are really good free throw shooters. Isaac McNeely, by the way, is like close to 90% on his free throws. So you got to be careful against Louisville about committing fouls. A, it gets you in trouble, but B, this is a team that hits their free throws really, I mentioned this earlier, hits their free throws really, really well. The guys who tend to get fouls are the guys who are hitting their free throws a lot, and you just can't let Louisville take you out of your game by getting you in foul trouble, and that's one of the things that Brown and Conwell try to do.
So, Jason, as we kind of wrap up here with things to watch, I want to start with something that we talked about a little bit on the last episode. Duke right now in ACC play, again, just 2 games, but they're dead last in effective field goal percentage on defense, 64.3%, which, as I mentioned, is a huge, huge number. They're also dead last in 3-point percentage allowed, which is 50%. And again, we're facing a team that, as you mentioned, likes to get their spots. They're either shooting threes or they're getting their spots right by the basket. We need to get back to the defense that we know we can do. And that earlier in the year was limiting those kind of shots, those kind of makes. And I think it starts in this particular game with the perimeter defense, because as I mentioned, if Mikel Brown Jr. plays, he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Ryan Conwell is definitely going to have the ball in his hands a lot. Isaac McNeely, when he gets the ball, you know he's going to be looking for his shot. And so our perimeter defense needs to take a step up, because I think that's going to be the key to limiting what they do on the outside. Because as Louisville, against Stanford, what they were doing was allowing those guys to dribble around with the ball, but not allowing them to get those entry passes down low underneath where they could do the most damage. And even when they did, it gave them time to push Louisville's guys a little bit further out. So as I mentioned, the 4-foot shot that they like to take becomes the 6-foot shot. The 20-foot three-pointer that they like to take becomes a 23-footer, and your muscle memory just acts up just enough for you to have your balance off, to have your rhythm off. And so I'm thinking those are two ways that we can keep in this ball game and limit what they're doing offensively. I think rebounding is going to be a big key in this game because I think, again, if they start missing three-pointers, there's going to be a lot of long misses. And this is a game where, once again, I believe our guards and our wings are going to need to step up on the rebounding end. We can't have guys with just one rebound that aren't really throwing themselves into the process. Get the rebound, secure it, then we can go the other way. And that leads me to my final thing. Louisville is going to try to dictate the tempo in this game because, as we mentioned, they like to go really fast, but they're more controlled than Florida State is in that speed. But if we control the tempo, that will help us control the spots on the floor that we want to get to make our shots. And I think when we lose control of the tempo, it means that we can't get to our spots. It means that we can't get the shot that we want, and we get a little bit chaotic on offense. And then again on defense when the other teams are beating us to their spots. This is where urgency and intensity need to come into play. That can help dictate and control the tempo because it'll allow Duke to say, hey, I know you want to get to that 4-foot spot, but I'm already here. So you're going to have to think of something else. Oh, you want to shoot that three? Sorry, my hand's in your face. You're going to have to think of something else. And that, again, just enough to throw the rhythm off to allow that momentum to be stifled inside the Yum Center, which is going to be, I know it's during break, but you have to expect it to be rocking, full of people. And this is where if Duke can control the tempo of this game, then we have the edge because Louisville, when they get out of rhythm because of the fact they can't control the tempo, that's where they start making mistakes.
Donald, last thing I'll say about all this, this game is a true unusual game for the Blue Devils. I'm not sure. Vegas sometimes gives an extra point or two to Duke because people like to bet on Duke. I think Duke will be an underdog in this game, or maybe it'll be a pick 'em. But the reality is the advanced analytics, the computers and the such say because this game is at Louisville, Duke is the underdog in this game. Ken Pomeroy says, we're a 1-point underdog. Bart Torvik says we're about a 4-point underdog. Torvik is much lower on Duke than Pomeroy is right now. But we're going on the road and playing a really, really good team. I think a lot of it may depend on whether Mikel Brown Jr. plays in this game as to, who's really favored in this contest. But this is the kind of game where it's not, nothing, not that anything's ever a sure thing, but, I'm not just going to say it. I won't be surprised, especially with the way Duke struggled lately, if things don't work out in this contest. And I hope that the team is able to find the focus on defense that they've been missing lately, and make life difficult for Louisville, because Louisville will make life very difficult for you on offense if you are not playing on top of your game on defense. This is a huge challenge for the Blue Devils, and I'm excited for it, even though I'll be watching it from an airplane because I'll literally.
Right, you're going to be in the air.
Yeah, so I have a 15-hour flight from Atlanta to Johannesburg, and the flight takes off like right as this game tips off. So hopefully my flight will have ESPN. I think it does. Delta, do me right. Have that TV working so I'll be able to watch. Or Wi-Fi. Better have Wi-Fi. I'm sure it has Wi-Fi. I can watch on my phone. Yeah. But it's a huge game, and will go a long way toward determining the fate of the ACC in this season. I still think that it's gonna. I think teams are probably the winner of the ACC is going to have at least 3 losses. I think. So if you can get yourself a couple games clear, because Louisville already has a loss. If Duke could get ourselves 2 games clear of Louisville, huge. That would be huge in the ACC standings.
And as I mentioned on the last episode, my little mini rant, this is why we signed up for this, right? This is what we asked for. We asked for this sort of competition, and here it is. Here's an opportunity to have a quad 1 win on the road against a team that many consider 1A, one of the top teams in the ACC. And again, as you mentioned, to kind of draw 2 games clear of them in the early week and a half of the ACC standings. Let's go after it. Let's embrace this challenge. Let's again attack this game as if we are the underdog, let's go after this game and take it to Louisville instead of reacting to what comes our way. I think this is going to be a big challenge for Duke, but I think they can win this game, and if they do, it'll answer a lot of questions about the toughness of this team. So I'm hoping we get some of those answers on Tuesday night.
There you go, buddy. All right. That's going to do it on the latest edition of DBR Bites. I'm Jason. I'm about to leave for Africa. He is Donald. Scott Rich will be with you to take my place for a few games in a row until the Louisville game. Here's the Duke band playing us out and taking us home.